Do you want me to set her up?
Yeah, if she can get in shot, that would be great. Welcome, everybody. Here we are live with the amazing Nicky from the Norbury Pet Health Centre. It's such a lovely place. If you have a pet and you've been there, you already know that. If you don't, you should. And we're here today to talk about pet health. But first of all, you know, it's all about inspiration, being isolated. People don't know you. And we want people to know each other locally. That's the point of this series, really, Nicky. So could you tell us a little bit about how you came to be in Norbury and how you are now the owner of the Norbury Pet Health Centre?
Okay. Originally, I'm from Northwest London. Brought up, went to school there, went to vet school, and I've actually been in Norbury since leaving vet school. I came here in 2000, straight from vet school, as the assistant vet at the time, working under the vet at the time was Mr. Ross, who owned the surgery, and I lived upstairs.
Yeah.
And by 2006, he decided he wanted to retire. So he asked me if I wanted to take over, and it seemed the logical thing to do, as I was so happy in Norbury. Norbury for me felt home from home, and in fact now it is home because I've been here longer than I was in North London. So it made sense to take over. I'd never had any intention of having my own practice when I was at vet school, but I'm glad it happened the way it did.
But it's gutsy as well. You know, you took the risk, you took the plunge, and it really is a leap of faith, isn't it? It was for me 20 years ago when I came to Norbury. I had no idea that I'd be here sort of over 20 years later, you know, doing the same thing. But
Where were you originally from then?
Well, I was working as a manager for a large corporate for the Winkworth Group at the time. And then I bought this as a franchise, and then I took it independent in 94. You know, and with all the kind of risk that comes with that, you know, it's something that's a bit of a kind of, here we go, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
But we're here to talk about you, Nicky, and your business and your practice today. And, you know, I think everyone will be interested because we rarely get to talk to a vet. And there are lots of things going on at the moment that would make pet owners worried, particularly with COVID. And I wanted to start by talking about COVID and pets, and because I've heard instances of people actually getting rid of their dogs, actually dumping their dogs because they're worried that they might contract COVID from them. And that's actually not true, is it?
Absolutely not. I mean, we certainly have been asked lots of questions by pet owners over the recent months with this COVID outbreak. Absolutely, there's no evidence at all that you can get COVID-19 from your dog or your cat, or vice versa. We've also had a lot of cat owners phoning us asking if it's okay for them to be letting their cats out. Should they be keeping their cats in? And if anything, we're saying, definitely let your cats out as normal, because if you've got a cat that's used to going out and you suddenly decide you're keeping them in, that will really stress a cat out, and then that can cause a whole heap of health issues for cats, change of routine. We are saying if the cat is from a COVID-19 household, i.e. someone in the house has got coronavirus, then we're suggesting maybe they don't let that cat out, because potentially that person could contact, have the coronavirus on that pet's on that person's hands, and then that cat could go out and like that. But certainly not, you could not get coronavirus from your dog or your cat, and vice versa. Absolutely. And it's worrying to hear that people are dumping their pets, because you know there are enough pets in this country that need homes at the best of times. We don't need any more at all. Absolutely.
Yeah. And by the way, we are live, so if anybody wants to ask a question, then they can pop it onto the feed. We will see it, and I will be able to ask Nicky for you. One other thing, we talked briefly before coming on air about diet, because obviously people they're indoors with their pets. They want to spoil them. They want to give the dog the bit of chocolate or whatever. Can you give us some advice around like poisonous and dangerous food for dogs particularly?
Sure. I mean, it always surprises me how many people don't realize things that are toxic in dogs. I think a lot of people know chocolate is obviously the darker, the more chocolate content, the more cocoa content, the more poisonous it is. But if you've got a small dog, you don't really, any chocolate could be potentially fatally toxic. Things like onions.
That was a shocker to me, because there'll be many people that give their leftover dinners to their dog, won't there?
Sunday roast with a bit of onion gravy. All the time goes down with garlic as well. People add garlic to their food. And then, like you said, after you eat your dinner, a lot of people just put their plates down for their dogs to finish the leftovers. Yes. Garlic is big no-no in dogs, can cause fatal anemias, as do onions. Chocolate, yeah. I mean, obviously, the nature of dogs is they're scavengers. So if they're out and about and someone dumps stuff, they can just the usual off foods. Certain mushrooms you have to be careful with dogs. But yeah, no, those are the biggie ones: chocolate, onions, and garlic. Really, that people don't realise, which are in every household, really, aren't they?
Yeah, and it's good. I think this is great advice for people that are at home now, and I bet there are a lot of people actually that will watch this and go, "Oh my gosh, I had no idea," and that's great. So it's really helpful. Thank you. So Nicky, tell us about what we should be checking. Can we look at Shay and do a little exam?
Let me good girl for mummy. Sit up. Come on,
she is so beautiful. You're going to love it.
She's a good gal. So
look at that.
Really, at home, I mean, things to think about with your pets is. I normally say anything out of the ordinary. If what they do, I mean, if they're doing what they normally do, then it's fine because that's what they normally do. So if it's anything out of the ordinary, like they're drinking more, a lot of people ask me about, I'm worried my pet's not drinking enough. Yeah. It's when they drink more, that often is when alarm bells start ringing. If your pet starts to drink more. Reduced appetite, obviously vomiting and diarrhea, anything out of the ordinary, not wanting to get up and exercise or play as they usually do, then those would tend to be alarm bells that something's wrong. But just the basic sort of like check you can do at home. You don't need to be a vet to do these things. I mean, and often I say to people with new puppies when they come in for their puppy checks, get in the habit of letting your dog when they're a puppy do these things so that when they're adult and you need to do these things, it's much easier. So, so firstly, what you want to do, Shay, come on, sit up for me, beautiful. So just generally starting at the head end. I always start at the head end with any exam. So you just want to check, like looking at them, that everything looks symmetrical, the same on both sides. Just check for any kind of discharges around the eyes. A little bit of sleep in the eyes is fine. A lot of people worry, but if it's grey or clear, that's fine. They get sleep like we get. So you can just wipe that out. But if it's green or yellow, then that would be a worry. Check there's sort of like no discharge around the nostrils. Checking their ears. Strange, but having a sniff, make sure there's no smelly signs of infection or wax build up or discharge. If your dog will let you sort of like lift the lip to check the color of the gums, nice and pink. You'll see, I don't know if you can see with Shay, she's got pigment there, so people worry about that sometimes, but that's fine. It's like us with freckles. Some people have freckles, some people don't. Right. It's just pigmentation of the skin, but you want to check that. Yeah, nice pink, warm gums. If your dog will let you open their mouth to check, obviously.
Oh, she's been so good. There.
She's been very good to me. Thank you.
Somebody just commented, Hayley's just commented, what a well-behaved dog.
I said to her, I said, you're going to embarrass me today. You're not going to behave. She's been lying on my lap all morning, so she's sitting up. She's being good for me. Just running your hands over the body just to make sure there are no lumps or bumps that shouldn't be there. And again, the other thing a lot of dogs don't like, if they're not used to you doing it, is checking their paws. Because if you can check their paws, especially we're coming up to summertime. I know people aren't really going out into parks so much with their dogs, but as vets, we see lots of grass seeds in the summer months. I suppose if you got a garden with grass, you need to watch for that. Grass seeds, they're horrible. They're like little darts, and they get up the nostrils, they get in the eyes, in the ears, in the paws. They can dig in and burrow deep underneath the skin. Come on, Shay. And you just want to sort of like run your hands across their body, down the back legs. And obviously having a good feel, just touch gently around the tummy.
And if they flinch at this point, Nicky, would that indicate there's a problem?
Exactly. If they tense up or yelp, again, running your hands along their spine, make sure there's no obvious pain there. I don't know how many dogs you might be lucky enough to have a dog that will let you bend and flex the joints.
Right.
So, he's had enough now. But
fair enough. She's been good.
Looking for abnormal smells, discharge, colour, any like redness anywhere.
Yeah.
Swellings, lumps or bumps. I mean, dogs are probably easier to do that too. You wouldn't be able to get away with doing that to most cats, I don't think.
No, I can imagine that's a lot more tricky. But you must have all sorts of exotic animals come to you as well.
We see cats. We see more cats than dogs, I think. Then dogs, rabbits. We see more rabbits. We see quite a few tortoises who would be thinking about coming out of hibernation soon.
Yeah, cool.
Some exotic small furries, we call them, like hamsters, guinea pigs, rats, which I'm allergic to, which isn't great as a vet, but yeah, we see a few of those. Things like your iguanas or your reptiles and amphibians, we can do basic stuff with those. If it needs anything more specialist, like specialist drugs, we would refer them to an exotic specialist.
Yeah. And what's the most unusual animal or reptile that you've treated?
Probably, we used to have a client, they were called Strictly Reptiles, and they used to export a lot of insects and things. We've seen scorpions, but literally that was just to check that they were fit for travel. It was just for export certification, because we can certify pets for transport and travel. And yeah, probably it was a scorpion.
Very strange. Yeah,
very strange to see a scorpion. There wasn't much I could examine on the scorpion.
Yeah. And in terms of, like, if people have got problems now, Nicky, what's the situation? Are you actually open? Are you seeing people?
We're not seeing routine. I'm just trying to bribe Shay with a treat. We're seeing routine. We're not seeing routine procedures or things like booster vaccinations, neuterins. We're seeing emergency and urgent cases. So if, for example, emergency, obviously, any accidents, poisoning, or if you feel your pet is suffering, in trouble, in pain, discomfort, then we would normally have a discussion with someone on the phone. Sometimes people are emailing us pictures, videos and things. And if we feel we can't really tell and we're worried from what the owner's saying, we would suggest coming down. Best to be safe than sorry. But we're doing, the front doors of the surgery are shut. So no one can come into the surgery. And we're sort of like, when you arrive, we're asking to call, and then we come out, collect your pet, have a chat over the phone about what's going on, and then take the pet in, examine the pet, and do what we need to do, hopefully to help them and make them feel better.
I've just had a comment come through. Ticks are active already this year. Any hints and tips for ticks?
I mean, ticks, we see a lot of ticks. I mean, last year, I think we had a record year for ticks. I mean, there was loads of them. You see ticks more in sort of like woodland areas or where there's going to be livestock, but around the commons here, we see a lot of ticks. You got sort of like different preparations for ticks. There's your front lines, there's your collars. You can get tick collars that are supposed to repel ticks. We recommend, I mean, now with pet travel, as it was, also not at the moment, but there are some cases now of these exotic tick-borne diseases coming into this country that we didn't see years ago.
Yeah.
So that's the concern. We're trying to recommend those dogs or cats that get lots of ticks. We're recommending products that repel the ticks, stop the ticks from attaching. Yeah. And they normally have to be attached for about 24 hours before they actually start transmitting potential diseases.
Right.
But you prefer to stop them attaching. Yeah. We always say to people, look, if your dog has a tick, the temptation is to pull it out yourself. You don't really want to be doing that. What happens with ticks is they bury their head deep underneath their heads and their mouth parts deep underneath the skin.
Right.
If you don't do it right, you
leave it in.
Leave them in, exactly, and then that can cause a horrible foreign body reaction. I mean, you can get these tick removers that slip under, and little nifty devices that remove the ticks without leaving the head parts in. So
would your advice be to get some sort of preparation or leave it unless you get a problem?
I mean, if you're walking your dog in areas where there are likely to be ticks, i.e. areas where there's livestock, long grass, woodland areas, then I would recommend preventative measures.
Yeah. And there's a spray that you can buy that will...
you can get different spot-on preparations.
Right.
There's collars you can even get that stay on for months. I mean, which we recommend because there are so many different products out there. It can be a bit of a minefield as an owner to know what should I be doing. I mean, we generally recommend more in the part of the world we're in. Lungworm is more of an issue. Lungworm is a killer. So a lot of people they don't realise how dangerous lungworm are. Dogs get lungworm, for example, the slugs and snails in the garden.
Oh, really? I didn't realise that would be a thing.
Yeah, I mean, that's how they pick up lungworm. If they go out in the garden or if you leave their toys out in the garden, it can be enough for a snail trail to go over their toy that is carrying the lungworm larva. Your dog then chew their toy. Yeah. And they could potentially get lungworm, and lungworm, it's not nice if they get that. It will kill them. So,
gosh, that's shocking. This is really great advice, because I think a lot of people wouldn't know what you're saying now, without actually talking to a vet. It's not something that occurs to you. Another comment's just come up. How bad is Lyme's at the moment?
We're not seeing. Well, I've not seen. I've not seen potentially a case of Lyme's unless it's gone undiagnosed, but certainly I've not seen Lyme's.
Yeah.
It is absolutely out there, especially more so now. It's one of those tick-borne diseases I was talking about.
Right.
With the pet travel, with pets coming from Europe, and we're getting a lot of rescue dogs from the continent. Potentially, they can be carrying tick-borne diseases. The passport rules they relaxed them for probably, it must have been about 8 years ago now. So it's a lot easier. There used to be compulsory tick treatment your pet had to have before coming back into this country, which we don't have to do now. As the rules of traveling are a lot more relaxed. It's all they need is a worming tablet before they come back into this country if you've traveled abroad with your pet. So potentially that could allow for these tick-borne diseases to get into the country. So for travel, although it's not compulsory for our pets for the passport, I always do recommend, if you're going on the continent, using a tick treatment, especially if you're going to be there for any length of time, because potentially your pet could get one of these horrible diseases, which Lyme's disease, leishmaniasis is one of those.
You know what? Your dog is more of a poser than my wife, and that is saying something. Oh, just as I've said that.
I'm not giving these treats, by the way, are part of her food. I take it out rather than giving her extra. I've taken out a bit from her daily ration. So she's not actually getting extra treats. It's just because she's on dry kibble, I'm using that. So obviously, because I'm always preaching to people about not letting their dogs get fat, especially now where they can't be walked so much. You want to be careful on the treats, but she spotted where they are. Look.
Yeah, and that was another question I wanted to ask, Nicky, because, you see a lot of pets and they're overweight, aren't they? I mean, I see a lot of people with overweight pets, and they're trying to do the right thing, but you kind of feel sorry for the animal as well.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a difficult thing to deal with.
It is, and I say to people all the time, do as I say, not as I do, because I'm very good at talking to people, but I'm not very good at following my own advice. And it is frustrating sometimes because you see a pet and the number of health issues we see daily, which could be helped if that pet wasn't the size they were, like especially with dogs with their joints, older dogs, the number of older dogs we see with joint issues.
Of course, because the extra weight,
Exactly. And then by the time they get to that point, it's much more difficult to get the weight off because they don't want to exercise. I mean, if you can imagine, it's like carrying a big backpack on you. You don't feel like going for a walk or walking around the block then.
Yeah.
So it's much harder when they're already there. You want to try and nip it in the bud and prevent them from getting there.
Definitely. If you can. Now, the other thing, Nicky, we spoke briefly offline yesterday about adder bites, because somebody had told me that these are becoming quite prevalent now. I don't know whether it's because we're not around so much that adders are now
they're
productive. But it certainly seems to be a problem, because then your colleague said that they'd heard someone asking for an antidote. So that was quite a shock. I don't think of that as a particular issue, but clearly it is in some parts of the UK.
Yeah, no, I mean, here in London, I mean, and this was at the emergency clinic that cover our out of hours, which is just up the road in Streatham. A vet was calling round to ask if we had any antidote for adder bites.
In Streatham?
Sorry?
In Streatham? I mean, I just can't imagine a snake going along the high road there, just...
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't know, like you said, I mean, just thought of that, you saying it. It's like we are seeing pictures of deer in the cities and things.
They're coming in.
Yeah, maybe because we're not out so much, they are. Although I don't think like where we're situated, slap bang on the London road, I don't think we're going to get too much cause for adders. I mean, as far as I've never used an antidote for an adder bite, because I mean, I think probably in the 20 years I've been practicing, I've seen 3 or 4, and even though. Sorry, what was that?
That's reassuring for people, because obviously it's a bit scary.
We couldn't be certain. It was just the circumstances were such, and again, it was in woodlands, and I know we've got a few nice parks and commons around here. So potentially, maybe, like you said, they're coming out. If you walk your dog on a common, or in woodland areas, they could potentially get bitten, I suppose. Yeah.
So, Nicky, you have this enthusiasm for what you do still after all this time, it seems. Do you love it?
Oh, absolutely. I feel blessed every morning that I wake up doing this job, and I think I drive everyone mad. I mean, I'm very, very lucky. I speak to people that dread going to work because they don't enjoy their jobs. And I couldn't imagine doing anything else. Wouldn't want to do anything else. If I could have my life over again, I'll do it all again. Exactly.
Start again and study away there. Yeah, absolutely brilliant. Well, folks, you know where to go if you want your pet looked after properly by someone that's got a real passion for looking after animals and their job. The Norbury Pet Health Centre. It's just up the road. You've probably never met them before if you don't have a pet. If you do and you haven't, then you should. And get in touch, because Nicky is so lovely and she works so hard at what she does. So I hope you've enjoyed this episode. Nicky, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you,
and do like and share the video, and we'll see you again with the next episode. Take care. Bye.
Thank you.